So today we're gonna talk about Google Ads, keyword research, SEA, very broad topic, how to get started maybe into the world of SEA. First question is, David, how do you get started into SEA, Google Ads?
Well, I think, when you decide to run paid search ads, starting with simple text-based ads, then obviously, you will probably start thinking way ahead of what type of keywords you could potentially target. And I guess when we look at in what stage you are, firstly, we need to understand where do you want to drive the traffic to. And when we understand where you want to drive the traffic to, we also have to understand what type of product service you would like to advertise. I mean, you kind of would have done your homework fundamentally on, this is what I want to achieve. So this is the goal, what I'm looking at in terms of, I want to use Google search to promote my service, brand, product in a certain formal way. And then you can match it with all the ad types, available to you from a paid perspective. We can say, let's take a example here to just, to show a better practices. Let's take another company. Should we do air conditioning again? We did it in the first video.
Yeah, so favorite example.
Easy to relate to, and today it's particularly hot here in Melbourne, so why not? So let's say you are a business who is selling, installing, servicing, maintaining, fixing air conditioning units for residential properties. Again, as we said in the first video, when it comes to basics, it's kind of like before you actually, go into your Google Ads account, set up the payment methods, set up your account and start, creating the first ads. I think you just kind of need to go back to the desk, take a piece of paper and just write down a couple of things you need to, or you should figure out before spending any dollars on it. The first thing is, as I said, what goal do you want to achieve? So number one would be you want to sell more air conditioning units, right? The first step here would be to look at what type of air conditioning units are you selling, and in what way would people actually search for those units. You can make the very quick assumption to say air conditioning, hot and cold aircon units, and so forth. So you kind of think that people would just jump onto Google, search for the broadest way to get, to buy or install an air conditioning. Again, you need to really start with a small list here. And the way I usually help clients to get to the right keywords is to just look at if they can supply me with a list of all the air conditioning units they would sell, service, install. That's usually where it starts, because you can then say, when someone searches for this type of aircon, this size, do you actually do it or not? Because you might potentially show an ad, but then later on realizing in the list of keywords which have been used to click on your ad that, oh, hang on, I didn't actually use that one. I shouldn't have shown my ad for that particular keyword. But it does contain aircon, the right location. But then the critical point here was perhaps that someone used a specific brand, a specific model, which is not, you can't deliver at this stage. Or it might be even the size where you say, I can't do anything above 2 kilowatts. That's something you use in aircon. So you have a small list together, and then what you do is you just look at, you can put them into the keyword tool. But I guess once you have analyzed the best search terms, you just need to understand what type of match types do you use to set up those keywords in the ads. I guess it's, in my head, it's just kind of like, there's so many ways to get to it, to find the right keywords. And I think to really try to summarize my first point here is be very specific in the beginning, because I think you have never tried Google Ads before. It can be quite adventurous if you don't really know what you do, because firstly, you can lose a lot of money. You run out of budget and do not get any results. And even if you're targeting the right keywords, you haven't even put anything in place to measure success. You might then realize, oh, okay, I don't need a tracking code or a script, anything on the website to tell me if I had more inquiries or not, because you will notice it immediately. You will get more phone calls, you get more service inquiries, and so forth. But again, you kind of like need to, look at it from a very small perspective, because you have so many, tools, keywords to target. But I think you should start very small, and then when you get your first success, you can scale from there.
I mean, I have, of course, so many thoughts now regarding some aspects that you've just mentioned. I mean, when we, for example, clean up the mess that someone has created, be it a client or even a different agency that has looked after a campaign, then oftentimes we see there was just too many keywords in this keyword list. And of course, let's say Google also wants to earn money. Yeah, they say, when in doubt, do the spaghetti approach, throw everything on the wall and see what sticks, right? And then maybe go from there, and then maybe do some automated bidding stuff. And we are very careful with this. We really select keywords, and when in doubt, we really try to focus on keywords that we assume that have the highest conversion rate. Of course, you have to work with data. It's very important to collect data and have insights, and then it's a process to find the right keyword list, right? You were also mentioning keywords that you need to exclude, yeah, the negative keywords and stuff like this. It's very important to really monitor this and track it also, right? I'm pretty sure we can get a little bit into conversion tracking and so on. But yeah, my observation is really that most people, no matter if it's an agency or if it's a business owner who wants to get started with Google Ads, they just have too many keywords that they are adding to their campaigns. And that would be also, from my perspective, the first thing to look after. Make sure to have a very, very select keyword list to start with.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I think it's a really good topic to mention around too many keywords, because the too many keywords doesn't necessarily mean you are on the right path and finding the right audience, customers, because I think about this. Last time I spoke to a client, and we were going through the exact same process of how to find the right keywords. I think from his mentality, it was that I do all of this and I found all these keywords with these amazing tools online who, you have 1 to 5 words in search phrases. It's all mixed together. It might be all towards the same service or product, even if it comes down to air conditioning. But even if I look at every individual keyword, the intent is completely different. It's like, let's say, and we're not talking about match types at this stage, because even if I look at a sentence and you have the wrong match type, I could put download PDF, free, how to fix. And then it would be, I would see your ad, I would click on it and then accidentally, lose that money. But what I found is that, especially accounts with these huge keyword lists, even if you look at all the keywords, you do not run enough ad copy to actually have all the search phrases and all the keywords mentioned in your list in the ad copy. So, you will realize pretty quickly that when you look at the keyword list and you look at the ads which have been created with the ad copy, that most of the keywords are not even mentioned in the ad copy. So even if I search for something and it is in your keyword list, I can't see exactly the same phrase or keyword in the ad copy. So it's highly likely that Google even won't show the ad because it's, from a quality perspective, it doesn't match the user's search query in the first place. Then most likely it won't even match what is on the landing page. And what you then get is you might get an impression somewhere. You might even get an accidental click, but it hasn't really, the keyword, the message on the ad and on your landing page is not even related to each other. And then you just end up with a complete mess. So, firstly, I think if we look at first tip here is if you really do your keyword research, yes, we can talk about, maybe mentioning what type of keywords are out there. They're the informational queries. They are the, the queries which are transformational in terms of transactional keyword queries, commercial queries, where you know that when someone is searching for that type of keyword, they're ready to buy. Then with the informational one, it's usually queries which are more in a, where that the user is at a awareness stage where they look for a product, where they compare a service or, products with each other. And then the question is, would you like to be in the early stage of that, awareness stage of the client? Would you like to show your ad, yes or no? What we tend to do is we focus on a handful of keywords, really a handful of keywords for one campaign, and say, let's say we do these 5 keywords. It can be phrases, it can be, broad match types, where we say if someone mentions 1, 2, 3 words, then we'll show an ad and we'll go from there and we'll see what has been searched, how did we appear, because you need to remember that it's not only down to the keyword level that you get the right search users, it's also what time of the day, it's also what location would you show the ad, and that combined should, bring you closer and closer to the right audience you want to target. So yeah, that would be my first tip, to really start with a handful of phrases. And then, because what you do is do a handful of phrases in the actual keywords you want to match, but then be very broad in the negative ones. Like you can have 1 million negative words, not 1 million, but you can have a long list of negative keywords. It can't be big enough. I've never seen an account where I say, oh, we need to be careful here. Your negative keyword list is too big. It's usually always the opposite. It's always that you have never taken the time to actually, in the beginning, mention what you don't want to show your ad for.
I mean, we should have labeled this talk as super advanced pro.
Yeah, true.
No, it's awesome. It's actually really awesome. I mean, yeah.
Look, and sometimes, I have a lot of scenarios in my head where people are like, oh, I haven't even thought about that. I don't even know how Google Ads work. It is for us, as specialists, because, we are getting called in when things don't work, and we have to figure out solutions to, what changes and tweaks can we do to an account to improve its performance immediately, because that's what you're here for. You can't I haven't done my SEO homework yet, which you should have done. But if you're completely new to the game, I think it is always hard. It is always hard to, to tell someone how to do certain things, because you have no data, no historical data yet in the account. You haven't even started the account. So you start from scratch, you start from zero. You have to start somewhere. What would our approach be? Because we all have been in Google AdWords for the first time. We saw all these settings you have available to you. And it can get extremely overwhelming, especially if campaigns don't work. And even if you either limit yourself extremely because you haven't tick the right boxes within the settings of setting up the campaign, or you're being too broad. You're just giving Google money to waste away on areas you're not even, you're not wanted to target. Let's say if I'm in Munich and my ads are running all across Germany, which I've seen so many times where people say, well, we only do Bavaria. So the closest would be Munich, maybe then 10, 20 kilometers around Munich. And anywhere else, we don't even want to show ads. But they have done that for the last few weeks, and they were wondering why they get inquiries across Germany. And so you truly need to understand, if you really want to do it yourself, understand the basics of Google Ads, understand what ad type is using what type of information you give to serve those ads. And then from there, you can just kind of like start putting together the campaign properly. And yeah, I mean, it comes down to keywords, but that's, you know, one part of it, of running a successful campaign. And I guess, yeah, what I've mentioned, I think also in the last video is, you know, you can focus on the low hanging fruits first. So before you plan out, you know, a very detailed strategy on how you take over the search engine space with your ads, start with the keywords which describe your business or your service best, in one specific location, and have a set budget for it. You can say, I start with €5, $5 a day in that specific area, which is, you know, let's say Munich. And within Munich, I show, let's say you can start with 7 days a week. For 5 specific keywords, you have a very exact match on these keywords. You say, if someone mentions air conditioning units or air conditioning installation Munich, you obviously would do a bit of your research on trying to find out how many words would be used to trigger what kind of ads. You make this list, and you just, you know, you take the keywords, you type it into Google search, and you just look at the results. And then that will tell you who you compete in that specific area, which is, you know, let's say Munich. And within Munich, I show, let's say you can start with 7 days a week. For 5 specific keywords, you have a very exact match on these keywords. You say, if someone mentions air conditioning units or air conditioning installation Munich, you obviously would do a bit of your research on trying to find out how many words would be used to trigger what kind of ads. You make this list, and you just, you know, you take the keywords, you type it into Google search, and you just look at the results. And then that will tell you who you're competing against with what type of ad copy, and you can see what keywords they have used in their ad copy. And then you just have to ask the question, if you would be a potential client, would you have searched for it? Who would you have clicked on? Not necessarily on the first one. It might be that the second or the third one are mentioning something where you're like, yeah, that's actually, you know, or they're not mentioning something you do, where you say no one has a specific offer. No one, you know, you might be registered in a certain area, but again, you also need to really be specific about terms to use in your ad copy or keywords when I wouldn't know about as a, you know, someone who has a broken air conditioning unit, or I want a new air conditioning unit. I don't know what your certification means. I know what perhaps resonates with me would be, I'm 20 years in business in Munich. I do this for 20 years. I've installed 50,000 air cons. And I think that means, wow, you have a broad understanding, you have a very, you know, specific understanding of air conditioning units. You do it for a while. You might also get the best prices in that area. You know, those are kind of like, there's a lot to it. It's, you know, it is not easy. It is really not easy. And finding that success in running those ads. So yeah, help. What would be another good question someone would end? I mean, and we hope that someone who sees these videos just guides us and say, John, David, just tell me this, tell me that. Because right now we're just, you know, trying to figure out who.
I just have to laugh because, you know, I'm just imagining this guy who is selling air conditioning units here in Munich, you know. I mean, you've lived here in Bavaria as well, like me, and I mean, a better or a more realistic scenario is someone who's, let's say, running a cleaning business or something, but air conditioning would be appropriate or more sought after in Melbourne or in the Philippines. So I was just, it was just a little bit funny, but
sorry,
I mean,
yeah,
you know, it's
air conditioners can also heat. That you can heaters. You can do think about the same with heaters. Yeah. But I think to just, I mean, look, to be very transparent here, we obviously are getting hired, so to speak, or we get, you know, we get in contact with businesses who are looking for our help in those areas, because, you know, imagine this: when I run a business and I have to go out and do the job, I rarely get the time to either educate myself on, you know, that specific type of marketing. I mean, I think number one issue today is that small businesses are really getting overwhelmed with the digital marketing space. And what they do is they sometimes hear that certain companies who are growing ahead of them, who are their competitors, they learn that they are using specific marketing channels, or they run specific promotions or ads on, on search or on Facebook, where they get their clients and their leads. And then what they try to do is to set everything up themselves. They, they start out and they think they can do it over a weekend, setting it up and let it run for a couple of days during the week. But then it gets really, really hard to kind of like sit down and just look at what you've done and how you could actually make it better, because it is extremely hard. And sometimes you can even over optimize accounts. So I guess, what we probably try to do today in today's video is, instead of trying to describe how you can get to the best performing campaign, because it is extremely hard to do it in one video. And again, our topic today is, how do you do your keyword research? And even that is hard, because sometimes you limit yourself on what you think these are the core services you offer, but then you realize, there are many other questions people have and solutions they need in your area. So you also need to capture that. So how would you do that? And you need to do research. You need to understand how search works. It is definitely not easy.
No, and I mean, absolutely. Leslie, I think Leslie's still in the call. I just switched off the video before because I think the connection, as usual, is not very stable. I think if Leslie has a question, I think because she just started with Google Ads, she just finally made the certification. And I still remember when I did my first Google Ads certification, that must have been in 2008 or 9 or something. And to be honest, since then, of course, the platform has changed about 1 million times. And my brother, for example, he's much more into it. He was even in Dublin with the Google team sometimes and was asking questions there on site or whatever. And he's managing most of the campaigns that we run, like for different clients in different countries, different industries. And I only, sorry, the only thing I can really say for sure is that it is, as you said, it's not easy. It is complicated. It's doable, right? If you really set aside time and learn about the details, like even in the few minutes that you have talked about it now, there were so many different topics that you can probably make a video about, like search intent, exact match, broad match. Then you have the customer journey. It's of course not only about the conversion heavy keywords. For some brands, it's also just about the branding, right? And then it makes sense to really have a broad approach and put in $1 million if you have it, because you just want to be visible for whatever is related to your brand. And this is important to understand, is that this is a totally different approach than, let's say, for a small business that has, let's say, a very limited budget of $5 a day or so, $10 a day, and tries to get some leads or even some sort of awareness in a very local area. And as you have mentioned it before, it was also for us sometimes surprising how much money even small businesses were burning, because in some industries, like let's say the locksmith industry, it's hilarious how much money they sometimes spend, right? It's like $30 to $50 per click, and if you if you're not careful, after a couple of days you might have wasted a few $1,000s without even getting one single conversion, right?
Yeah, there are industries which are very, very hard. I just try to understand. I kind of like talk about the topic in a way that someone who has not a lot of experience like us is just understanding where we're coming from and where we try to head with our answers, or especially with mine. Let's say industries, that's another thing where, locksmiths, carpet cleaners, we have here a lot from of all these small businesses where it all comes down to probably 1, 2, 3 things. Firstly, it is, you need to understand there are locksmith. What's number one? Number one is, if you are locked out, you need a locksmith, emergency locksmith. So how would you get someone to find you? Well, obviously, if you run ads, you would make sure that, because think about this. If you're running ads and you're trying to understand what budget you need on a day-to-day basis, I think, and we're not even talking about keywords anymore. It's more like, hey, I want to be successful with my campaign. And it's like, okay, if you are running ads for $5 a day, €5 a day, but then personally that every time you get an inquiry through that ad and you turn this into a sale or a job, that job is potentially 100 euros worth for you, or even more than that. Maybe it's even 500 euros. So you know that the return you get from each sale is quite high. And what you try to do is you try to limit the cost you spend every time to acquire a new customer. The most expensive way you could think of is to kind of like pay every time for that new customer through Google search or a Facebook ad and whatnot. So your goal is to kind of like decrease the cost as much as you can. But you need to understand that if you are running ads and you have competitors who know the value of that sale and that inquiry they want to get, they might be willing to have a budget of $20 a day. And it's what they do is, when they see that there's a bit more competition, they increase their maximum cost per clicks. They say, you with your $5 a day budget, you will run out of that budget pretty quickly, because the cost per clicks might be $1 a day or €1 a day, and you only have €5. So you get only 5 clicks. If they are not on the exact match keywords you want, then the money is gone by breakfast, and you haven't gained anything. And that usually happens in areas where, firstly, yes, you might be targeting the right keywords, but then those ones are extremely competitive, because people know that once they get visibility, they get the click and they get the inquiry, it is worth, quite a bit for them. And if they get multiple a day, they will be prepared to have enough budget to run ads all day, get as much inquiry as they can, because, with each inquiry, they will make a healthy return from it. But what I tend to see is that rarely businesses or business owners make those kind of campaigns successful. I think we're really switching from one topic to the other, but you have to understand
okay.
that I just try to remember scenarios where I take a campaign from someone who runs their own business and says, oh, I've started this. I got a few calls here and there, but they were never really related to what I do. Or, what happens is people come to a point where it's like, they know it's worth running ads, but they haven't found the formula or the right settings or strategy on making sure that the ads are returning those inquiries more often, more frequent, while not spending too much money on it. So they want more inquiries for less money, as simple as that. And they haven't really found out how to do that. And what happens is, usually before I look to make changes at those campaigns, I do, a full audit of them, which means I get access to them. I'll have a look at it, and then I'll go for each sections, knowing what, the customer has explained me. But it takes for me at least a day or two to really fully understand historically what has happened and why the results weren't as good as before. And from there, I'll make suggestions on, hey, here are the opportunities within the account. Even it doesn't have necessarily anything to do with what industry I'm working in, or what type of keywords we're targeting. It's more like the basic setup of that account. that can either lead to success or not. So, and from there, you can take the steps to optimize. And you know what? The first step sometimes is when I see that a lot of money has been wasted, I stop everything on the day I start auditing. I said, sorry, I had to stop those because those ads didn't make any single sense of how they were structured. And, you know, it's particularly sad to see that, you know, the money has been spent. But to be honest, not long. I've never seen an account which, you know, had months worth of thousands of euros or dollars spent. It's usually that someone starts for 2 weeks or even 4, spends a significant amount and then realizes that nothing has happened and then pauses everything or just leaves it running for a small amount every day, but still nothing really happens. So what they do is they say, look, I need to outsource this. Either I hire someone within my team, like to come in and sit beside me in my team and you know, runs and manage everything of that day to day. And when I have the privilege to kind of like get access to the account and have built the trust with someone who's running their own business or, you know, running a team to manage that kind of account, to say, okay, David, what do you think? What can we do here to get results? Yeah, and from there, I need to understand what has gone wrong.
I mean, maybe 2 thoughts on this. Of course, as you mentioned, we're kind of jumping in between topics, but of course, this is our first video regarding SEA, Google Ads, and so on. Pretty sure there will be many more videos to come, and I'm actually really looking forward to producing more videos with you and hopefully my brother, because yeah, it is a very interesting topic. It's getting more and more important. More people need to advertise because SEO is also getting more complicated. And yeah, oftentimes you have a combination between SEO and SEA, because with SEA you have visibility right away, and SEO is more of a midterm, long-term project. But what I want to say is that the historical data is super important, right? Because if you don't have data to work with, you have no idea what's happening or what was happening, and make sure to collect the data, right? I mean, it starts with even, let's say, connecting your Google Analytics with your Google Ads account. Many people don't even have this, right? Or they don't have a proper Google Analytics setup and stuff like this. Get those basics right. It's very important to have data you can work with. And the other thing is, in order to be able to optimize, yeah, you need to really understand where are those leads and sales coming from. Yeah, you need to have the insights, the business insights to understand, okay, where are the conversions coming from and where can I do more, or can I put more money into it in order to get more leads and sales? Because this is in the end what business is all about. You need to understand, okay, what's working, what's not working, why is it working, yeah, or not. And then when you filtered out some, let's say, some insights, you can really focus on getting more from this and yeah, optimize it a bit more.
Yeah, historical data, yes. So I guess, let's say even if someone has historical data and you have collected traffic in the last couple of weeks and months, it can be paid, it can be organic, it can be any. You know, analytics again is as well as all other tools, depending on how you've set it up and what type of information it is tracking, it is extremely helpful to, or it is a crucial piece of information for you to run successful marketing campaigns, regardless of paid or non-paid. But I think we come back to square one of, even if you know, I see there's a lot that people are looking into analytics, and all what analytics is dimension and metrics. So, you know, dimension could be time of the day, metric, the time itself. And what you then can do is you can take any dimension. Let's say bounce rate is, everyone loves bounce rate, loves to talk about it, and then look at, I have a bounce rate of 95% on this page. That is shocking. I need to fix this. This is horrible. So,
Is
well,
it so?
yeah, exactly. It's, well, what page do we actually look on? And it's like, we are looking on the contact us page. And it's like, well, what's the whole purpose of the contact us page? It's kind of like, and then obviously without looking at where the traffic actually came from. Let's say it came from organic and has a bounce rate of 95%. So the page's purpose is kind of like to give you contact details. It might be that what is on the page, either there's a form or the form doesn't even work. So what do people do? Instead of clicking around, they see maybe a phone number, they see an email address, they copy that, go to their email provider and send you an email. So they bounce off after the first page. Funny enough, sometimes we do an audit and we realize that, it can also be a technical difficulty where you had 2 tracking codes in all the other pages, on certain pages, and you have amazing bounce rates. So don't always look in analytics and judge your whole site by those dimensional metrics, because you take them sometimes out of context. You come in there and you try to find an answer for a question you haven't even asked. So the first thing you should do is to maybe say, give me the top 10 pages with, saying who had the most, who were the most frequent visited, and why were they the most frequent visited ones. If it's, let's say, some of your sub pages, which means there were inner pages of your website, it's not the home page, it might be that it's a services page. Then you can say, wow, why has this been the most frequent page? Oh, because it is ranking quite well in Google. So why does it rank well in Google? Well, because it seems in that area, or for that specific keyword, I provide, some helpful, relevant information. And then you realize, hang on, that seems to work quite well there. So what can I do to not only get more traffic, but also get more, what is the goal for my website? To bring me more inquiries. So what could help on that page to drive more inquiries? And if you do that for the organic side of things, you will realize you need to do that exactly for the paid side of things. And what you will understand is that even if you try to search for yourself in that area, service, location, all combined, and you do not appear for organic, you obviously would jump into Google Ads, you would put that into your target keywords, and you run a campaign of it. But again, it is, Google Analytics is fantastic if you know what question you're asking. So yeah.
Looking at the
time
clock, we do have 5 more minutes before we move over to Clubhouse. This is like a SEO, SEA online marketing marathon today. It's very interactive, and it's actually very exciting, because I think you were just saying paid and organic. This is exactly the perfect kind of combination now of topics that we might start with in our Clubhouse chat today, our very first Clubhouse chat. And I have no idea how many people we have in this Clubhouse chat already, but I think there are a few. And what I will do is I'm probably going to slowly move into our room.
Look, I think, we have to wrap it up anyway. I think with the next video, I guess, what we want to hopefully achieve is that whoever is watching those videos and sees us struggling to find the right information or answers to all of the questions we are coming up with is, submit your own message, your own questions to us. The more specific, the better, or, any questions you have. And we're more than happy to kind of like try to, because we both have our experiences and knowledge in those areas. So if we find someone with real life questions, we are more than happy to jump in and
I'm pretty sure that there are heaps of questions, and I'm pretty sure that Leslie, who is still in our chat, has written down like 2 or 3 pages like I have. And you know what I will do? I will just start the room on Clubhouse yet. I'm gonna actually just continue recording.